This video is sponsored by Audible. Director Denis Villeneuve's upcoming Dune is poised to become the event of 2020, and there are, as of now, no other movies I am more excited for. In fact, I am so excited that I have decided to take the plunge into the world of Frank Herbert's Dune and read all the books in the saga between now and the opening of the movie. I've read the original novel before, but now I'm taking the deep dive, and I will take all of you with me along for the ride as I go through the books one by one. I'll do it with a twist though. I know the usual recommendation is to read them all in the order they were released. That means read the original 6 novels by Frank Herbert first, and then ideally stop there. And if you feel you must, then read all the pastiches by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson in the order they were released. And yeah, I do want to read those too. Being a fan of Conan, I have room for pastiches in my literary diet. Anyway, reading in the order of release is, as Spock would say, the logical thing to do.
I have registered your opinion, Spock, but decided I don't give a damn about it.
Maybe I'm weird, but I want to explore the Dune universe in chronological order, at least partially. One of the things about it that fascinates me the most is the war on the machines. Although only referenced in Herbert's original books, that is the crucial event that set the stage for them, and this will carry into the upcoming Villeneuve movie as well. Case in point, the Bene Gesserit, the Mentats, and the Guild Navigators all came about as a direct result of the ban on making machines in the image of a human mind, which is a fancy way of saying they banned any and all artificial intelligence. The war on the machines is such a critical aspect of Dune that for the extended TV edition of the David Lynch movie, it made up the major part of the animated intro sequence. We've seen several different iterations of the war against the machines trope in fiction. Both Terminator and Battlestar Galactica spring to mind, but we've rarely seen more than references to the actual war against the machines. Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's War on the Machines trilogy, although they call it the Legends of Dune Trilogy, is all about just that, and I'm really curious about it, so I've decided to begin there. Then we'll see what I read next. In this video, I'll take you through the first part of the Legends of Dune Trilogy, the Butlerian Jihad. In so doing, I will first take you through the setup of the story and the main characters, and then give you my review and verdict of the book itself. After I've done that, towards the very end of the video, I'll go into the spoiler section and reveal how the book ends, setting the stage for the next book. Before that though, I have to make an admission. When I say I'm going to read all the Dune books, what I actually mean is that I'm going to listen to all the Dune audiobooks. Not only do I not have the time to actually sit down and read, my schedule is too full for that. I can't blow my 20/20 vision reading thousands upon thousands of pages of tiny lettering. I'm gonna need my clarity of vision for the movie, and everything else in life. You should absolutely read books as a general thing, but focusing in on that tiny little letters for extended periods of time won't do your eyes any favors. So to me, audiobooks is where it's at. Also, I spend time commuting daily, time which otherwise would have been a complete waste, and that is when I can put the time to good use with audiobooks. Even caught myself wishing the journey was longer a couple of times. Where can you find these audiobooks, you wonder? Well, through Audible, of course, this video's sponsor. Audible is the world's leading provider of spoken word entertainment. So in addition to audiobook versions of all the Dune novels, as well as just about any other book under the sun, from fiction to self-improvement, Audible also hosts podcasts, news, training tips, and so much more. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from major newspapers, as well as guided meditation programs if you're into that sort of thing. All content can be streamed to your mobile device. Although I personally recommend downloading whichever content that interests you to your device while on Wi-Fi, then you can listen to it anywhere, offline, without having to worry about data. So do head on over to Audible, and if you want to help out this channel while you're at it, visit the link audible.com/MidnightsEdge, or if you're in the US, text MidnightsEdge to 500 500. Again, I know you're supposed to read them in chronological order, and that the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson books, by all accounts, are inferior when compared with Frank Herbert's originals. However, I've read the original, so I kind of know what's coming. As such, I won't be dissuaded by these books even if they don't hold up as well as the originals. I wouldn't recommend complete newcomers to Dune to read the books in the order that I'm doing right now. But hey, follow these videos and I'll give you a decent recounting of the backstory leading up to Dune. Now, getting into the chronologically first book in the Dune saga, know that it takes place roughly at the halfway point between our time and the time of the original Dune novel. So about 10,000 years after our time, but 10,000 years before the events in the original Dune. If that confuses you, since Virginia Madsen said so clearly that
know then that it is the year 10,191.
Know that the 0 point for that timescale was the formation of the Spacing Guild, which happened after the machines had been defeated. But before they were defeated, there was the war against the machines, and that is covered in the Butlerian Jihad. Going in, I honestly expected that this book would detail the initial rise of the machines. That's what I thought the title The Butlerian Jihad referred to. The butlers, as in the robo-servants, going on a mission to depose their human overlords. As it turned out, that wasn't the case at all. When the novel begins, the machines, led by their supreme intelligence, Omnius, have already essentially ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years already, and the machine rule came to be in a rather surprising way. More than 1,000 years before the main story of the book, humanity had already settled a large chunk of the galaxy and formed a Terran empire, if you will. However, it was lazy and complacent, letting machines do all the work and thinking for them, through the power of AI. A group of highly skilled rogues had ambition, however, and banded together. They renamed themselves after the gods of primarily ancient Greek pantheon, called themselves as a group the Titans, and usurped rule over the galaxy in a coup d'etat. They ruled by having the machines work for them and act on their behalf, and their rule was a long one. Eventually, age caught up with them. At this point in the future, though, there were ways to extend life. So the Titans had their brains removed from their mortal bodies, preserved in biofluid canisters, and placed into machine bodies, allowing their rule to continue as Cymechs, well beyond any human lifespan. In time, though, they too got complacent, letting the machines do all the work for them, while they basically relaxed and enjoyed the good side of Cymech life, scattered across multiple planets. One in particular ceded too much control to the supreme machine intelligence, Omnius. Alas, in order to aid the Titans, Omnius too had been programmed with a thirst for conquest. Once given the opportunity, Omnius rebelled against his Cymech overlord and seized control over the planet. And thereafter, he spread copies of himself to all the other colonized planets ruled by the Titans. Before they realized what was going on and could mount a counter-defense, all the Cymechs had been toppled. They weren't killed. Omnius programming prevented that, but the former masters were now the humiliated servants of the machines who now ruled the galaxy. Or at least the planets that the Cymech Titans had ruled in the first place. And they didn't rule all inhabited planets. Many planets settled by humans remained free and banded together to fight the advances of the conquering thinking machines. Several of these free worlds fell, but the remaining ones were able to fight the machines off and into an uneasy truce. Not all humans fought though. The followers of Buddhism Islam did not. They just wanted to be left alone to worship their gods in peace, and sought new worlds where they could do that. The rest of humanity considered them traitors for this, and therefore saw fit to raid the worlds they settled on, and capture and use the followers of Buddhism Islam themselves as slaves to replace the machine workforce. Meanwhile, on the synchronized worlds run by the machines, the remaining human population was also used as forced slave labor. In other words, both the machines and the free humans in the Interplanetarian League of Nobles, as they came to call themselves, employ slave labor. So needless to say, that is a big theme going on here. Now that was the backdrop. Flash forward 1,000 years of uneasy truce, and the humans have gotten complacent again, forgotten about what kind of threat the machines actually represent. As generations have passed since there were any open hostilities, the machines have just been biding their time though, and now they mount their renewed attack on humanity. The planets we know from the original novel Dune are just the backdrop. It is the characters that carry the story, and that will connect this story to the larger Dune universe. The key ones are Savior Harkonnen, the up-and-coming officer who leads the resistance against the thinking machines, Serena Butler, his idealist fiancée, and the famous inventor Theo Holtzman and his apprentice Norma Senva, who together will come up with many inventions that are commonplace by the time of the original Dune. On the machine side, we find the ominous Evermind, whom there are multiple copies of, Erasmus the independent robot, who has a Data-like curiosity about humans, but with a sadistic streak. Then there are the remaining Cymex, and Vorian Atreides, the biological offspring of the Cymek leader, who was raised by machines and works with them against his fellow humans. I know many Dune fans hold the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson books in very low regard, and even I as a casual fan recognize that this doesn't reach anywhere close to Frank Herbert's original writing. That being said, this isn't bad. Quite the contrary, this is good. I had a great time reading this, or rather listening to the audiobook. That was narrated by Scott Brick, who did a great job with it, subtly changing the intonation and timbre of his voice, depending on who is the focal character and the tone of the particular section. Both the story and the characters are quite compelling, and many of the themes Frank Herbert inserted into his writing can also be found here. My only criticisms of it, and they are slight, is that the slavery thing was a bit heavy-handed, and it suffered a pretty bad case of prequelitis, by which I mean, I felt that too much of what we will come to see in the original Dune, more than 10,000 years later, was set up over too short a time span here. Overall though, this was an enjoyable book, and the war on the machines aspect of it is handled in a very intriguing way, and quite different from what I had expected going in. If you've read the original Dune and liked that, or if you don't really care about Dune, but liked Battlestar Galactica or even Robotech, I would definitely recommend this. I sincerely hope that Denis Villeneuve's Dune is sufficiently successful to not only warrant a direct sequel, but many more spin-offs. The Butlerian Jihad is very cinematic in its storytelling, and I would love a movie adaptation of it someday. NBC Universal are looking to reboot Battlestar Galactica, an endeavor I hope they will be unsuccessful in getting made, as that has already been done to perfection. In my opinion, a Dune prequel would be the best way to move forward with the concept of a war against the machines. If you are curious about the Butlerian Jihad, then stop this video right now and head on over to Audible and get into it. You haven't really been spoiled so far, but if you're still here, you're about to be. I could literally talk for hours about all the complexities and nuances of this book, so you should read it. But for those who just want its most distilled effect on the history of the Dune universe, here it goes. The pregnant Serena Butler is captured by the machines and taken back to planet Earth, the cradle of humanity which has been under machine rule the past 1,000 years. Erasmus, the independent yet sadistic robot, takes an interest in her as he seldom gets to experiment with actual free-range humans, as opposed to his human slaves, which have been born and bred in machine captivity. He therefore lets her give birth to and raise her child, the son of Savior Harkonnen, in the Erasmus household. Not yet married to Savior, Serena names the child after her own father, Mannion Butler. In machine captivity, Serena meets Vorian Atreides, who has been raised and brainwashed by machines his whole life. Even so, Serena is able to reach through to him and plant the seeds of doubt, which will eventually cause him to shift sides and join the human resistance. Meanwhile, Erasmus has had enough of little Mannion Butler, by now a 1-year-old toddler, and kills him in front of his mother and a whole host of other human slaves. This event sets off the rise of the human resistance, and the emerging leader of the resistance is able to infuse a religious component into it, as only religious zeal can drive humans into the kind of craze which will be necessary to not only defend themselves against the machines, but seek out and rid the universe of them. This, then, is the beginning of what will come to be known as the Butlerian Jihad, the rise against the machines. If you want to check it out, or indeed any other spoken word entertainment, then head on over to audible.com/MidnightsEdge. Or if you're in the US, text MidnightsEdge to 500 500. Let me know your thoughts on this aspect of the Dune backstory in the comments.